Hey, what's up, guys? Listen, new information in the Shanquella Robinson case, and we need to ask ourselves, why does it look like the doctor is going to walk free? Why does it look like the Mexican government is already making excuses for the doctor's behavior to make it seem like the only person that could ever be responsible was Dejanay Jackson, even though it has been, I don't want to say concluded, but yeah, from what I see, that the doctor is just as culpable as the Cabo6. At best, she was an idiot that had no right working on someone. At worst, she was culpable and a co-conspirator and was paid off to cover up the unfortunate murder of Shanquella Robinson. You guys, what am I talking about? New information has come out from the reporter covering the case, okay? Let me tell you what was said, and let me explain why. One, this doesn't make any sense. Two, it sounds like the Mexico government or whoever's covering it up is fine to let all the Mexico citizens walk and only hold one American responsible. Three, oddly enough, what is being reported now lines up with Nasir Wiggins' lie, but you know, we're going to talk about Nasir's in a different video. Let's talk about how we cannot let this Mexican doctor go free. Like I said, at best, she was an idiot that had no reason, no right. At worst, she was 100% culpable and helped cover up. Let's get into what I'm going to just kind of brief over what was actually given in the report. First of all, no 911 call was released, okay? However, they said that they're saying now, the Mexico officials, according to the reporter covering it, is saying that they don't feel that the doctor should be held liable because it's Shanquella's friend's fault for lying about having alcohol poisoning. To which, when I heard that, I said, get the F out of here. What are you talking about? It's the friend's fault. Now, don't get me wrong. The friends 100% have culpability. Go watch my Shanquella playlist. That's what I've been talking about all this time. But that doctor is just as culpable. And why are they letting all the Mexico citizens off? The Red Cross EMT, the doctor, and the two police officers. Listen to this. Let me just give you a summary. The protocol she followed was for alcohol poisoning. If she had known that she wasn't experiencing alcohol poisoning, she would have placed a collar on her neck to immobilize her and place her in an ambulance. They're saying that the neck pressure, right, from giving, and the pressure you get in the cervix from giving somebody CPR would truly be lethal for someone whose spine is in a delicate position, right? They said because she wasn't responding, they gave her CPR 14, 15 times. She had on no neck brace. Then they also gave her 5 doses of adrenaline, right? The autopsy revealed that. There was no report at all. We're going to get into that in a second. There's no report on who the mysterious friend was that the nurse swears did CPR with her. Again, this is another thing about, at this point, I really do think the Mexico government is playing in our face and we need to bring it back to America. I can understand them being like, oh my God, we need to question the Cabo6 and putting out subpoenas. And yeah, we can blame the FBI for whatever, not dragging them over to make them talk. But what's your excuse in Mexico? You know where the girl works at. You know she's a doctor. You know what she said. There's pictures of everybody. Why can't she pick out who was the friend that helped her with CPR? Even if she doesn't remember the exact faces. You remember who had a beard, who didn't. You remembered who was man and who was woman. You remember Winter Donovan calling 911. Did you not? You wrote that in a police report. So why all of a sudden is the mysterious friend that helped you commit CPR, right? That helped you and give CPR. Why can't you remember? Is it because this is all a lie and you made up the story because you already knew her spine was broken? She was starting to go into rigor mortis. Again, the autopsy says that she was found, she died somewhere around 3 p.m. Within 15 minutes of that happening. The doctor didn't get there, according to her, 3:30. Is she lying about that? And once you got there, we all know that rigor mortis starts setting in within an hour or two after death. There is stiffening. Any trained medical professional, if she's actually a doctor, or even a nurse, come on, a medically trained professional would actually recognize that. When you got there, we're going to get into the story and rip it apart and how Mexico is covering up. When you got there, you said that she was stable. You said all her vital signs was Gucci. even if somebody had alcohol poisoning, there's no way their vital signs would have been Gucci. And what's not, you know me, I Googled alcohol poisoning, and I'm here to say that the Mexico authorities, if what the report is saying is true, are flat out lying. She is 100% culpable because she is the medical professional. She is the proverbial adult in the room. If I come in and say, oh my God, I think like I broke my leg, there is no doctor in the world that's going to say, oh, well, you said you broke your leg. I mean, you got a steak coming out your stomach, but you said you broke your leg. So I'm going to ignore everything else and all my medical training, and I'm going to let a civilian with no medical training diagnose themselves. And get this, not even themselves. I'm going to let a civilian with no medical training diagnose what is happening to a woman who is critically injured, even getting alcohol poisoning. And I'm going to sit there when I say, I think she needs to go to the hospital. We're going to take a show of hands to see who gets to get taken to the hospital. Everybody says no. All right, cool. Let me pull this IV out. She did not follow medical protocol. There is no excuse for that. But oddly enough, it seems like the Mexico government is making plenty of excuses. Explain to me how everybody involved with this, and this is actually getting scary now. Explain to me how everybody involved in this, everybody involved in this in Mexico, is either it's not my responsibility, or they were allowed to leave without saying anything. And with the investigation, we're like, well, what's going on with forensic? What's going on with the crime scene? What's going on with this? What's going on with that? Interestingly enough, you know those pictures that are circulating of the medic and the two EMTs and the doctor, and everybody's saying they're fake? Listen, we don't know, okay? But I am saying this. Didn't Nasir say in his live that the two police officers that got there, they were the last to arrive on the scene. The two police officers that got there took pictures of them working on Shanquella. Did he not say that? Again, here's the thing. Everybody could be lying. But when certain points in people's stories start lining up, I tend to believe more often than not, there might be a grain of truth in that, and we need to investigate that. So for everybody saying, oh my God, you think those true? What happened to Nasir saying people took pictures of Shanquella? Who do you call it? The police officers that were there took pictures, right? If you look at those pictures, I know y'all be like, oh my God, we can't even tell the expression. Listen, I don't know how y'all get around. Somebody can be in full garb. I see emotion in people's eyes. I see emotions in people's eyebrows. I can be talking like this, and you still know if I think like, what? But my whole point of the matter isn't to actually argue about whether those pictures are true or not. It's to say that they feed into a lot of what Nasir was saying. But let's get back to those pictures. You can see what you want in those pictures. I see guilt on that doctor's face. I see worry on that doctor's face. I see panic on that doctor's face, honestly. And I see like alarm on the EMTs. Y'all sitting there saying, because people have masks, and one's sitting there sitting like this, and another person's looking like this, that y'all can't tell what the expression is. I guess some of y'all never made it out of preschool with the colors. Anyway, you know how they used to give faces and be like, is this person angry? Is this person sad? Is this person happy? Anyway, right? Let's get into, right? The nurse, they're now saying that the nurse feels, because they questioned the nurse, that she feels confident that if they had told her what was going on, she could have administered the right treatment. Again, what doctor for an unconscious person, nobody is next to him, walks into a room? How do you know? She's a friend, she's a friend, she's a friend. What's going on? She has alcohol poisoning. What doctor doesn't do a preliminary exam to see what's going on, to see if she OD'd, to see if it was alcohol poisoning, to see if she was poisoned, to see if that's all that happened? She could have had alcohol poisoning and tripped and nobody knew. That's why when you first go into any doctor, any emergency room, or if you have EMTs and ambulance called on you, what's the first thing they say? What happened? And then they proceed to check you out like you just didn't say anything, because they know you are not a trained medical professional. Yeah, I'm asking you, could you give me a little more information, but I still need to proceed. How the hell did you give somebody 14, 15 rounds of CPR and not know that they had died at 3 o'clock? Honestly, this is what the Mexico government is expecting us to believe. How the heck? And again, so let me get this straight. Doctor didn't do anything wrong. The Cabo6, who knows if we can't talk to them? And Dejanay, what's going on with that? So out of everything that happened to Shanquella, the only people you guys are even slightly looking at being involved in Dejanay, and let me say this, and I will stand by this. If you are doing this type of half-ass, let's call what it is, investigation, what the doctor says, and the Cabo6, how can you even be secure that your paperwork is in order for Dejanay? Again, it is giving me the vibes, and you guys, I have heard what you're saying. I'm going to see if I can compile a list of people to contact. If anybody knows Shanquella Robinson's family, I have tried to get in contact with them. I have no ties to the North Carolina area, but I would love to be in contact with them. If anybody knows them, please have them DM. Everything will be confidential, but I would love to talk to them. I would love to talk to their attorneys. I would love, and not even to make a video, but I would love to work with them to see what information do you need out? What direction do you need to happen? Where do you guys see this going? Why? Because I feel like it's time for us to make an organized effort to really fight for justice, because I feel like it's slipping in between my fingers. I really honestly do. However, let's get into this nurse and bust open the Mexican government's blatant lies about why she's not responsible. And we're going to break it down with medical stuff. So let's get into this, right? Medical Twitter, medical YouTube, hit me up in the comments and let me know, right? Alcohol intoxication, the signs, symptoms, and treatment. Now, when somebody's just intoxicated, you bring intravenous fluids. They are just drunk. They're tipsy, right? You're trying to flush their system out, right? You bring an IV to prevent dehydration. You administer vitamins and sugar to treat low blood sugar. Get this. You insert a breathing tube in the open airways and provide more oxygen to the body. You must pump the stomach to rid the body of excess alcohol. That's number one. You guys, I have even more damning information. But let's just say it like this. The nurse literally was like, I didn't know. They told me it was alcohol poisoning. I don't know. Okay, well, if you don't know, why don't you just come with a bag of IV? Because everybody knows that is an incomplete treatment for alcohol poisoning. Not intoxication, not drunk. You are being poisoned. By no stretch of imagination is someone that is being poisoned by alcohol going to be okay with an IV. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows that. Every medical professional knows that, especially if they called her. That's why when she first got there, she said they need to go to the hospital because she did not have, where was the tube? She didn't put a tube down her throat. She didn't pump her stomach. She didn't have any of the equipment except for an IV bag. And let me tell you something. If the autopsy is to be believed, that IV bag was not moving into her system. However, do you know what it does when an IV, when your veins aren't flowing, right? It's almost like when somebody gives you an IV in the wrong vein. What happens is wherever that IV is inserted, it starts to swell up because instead of going into the blood system, it goes into the tissue. It's actually really, really dangerous. There is no way that she, first of all, found a pulse point. But even if she did and she put it in, you saw wherever the IV was plugged up, you saw that extremity swelling because there was no circulation. Again, there's more. There's more. What are the 3 steps of alcohol poisoning? This is from the least to the most. Reduced awareness, information processing, and visual acuity. Stages of intoxication. Reduced muscle coordination, that is the back scale. You need a back 0.09 to 0.25. Just hear me out, right? Percentage. Confusion, you need a back of 0.18 to 0.30. Stupor, you need a back to 0.25 to 0.49. Coma, you need a back of 0.35 to 0.05. Back is body alcohol content. And for death, you need a back of plus 50 or more percent. That woman took no blood for Shanquella. You didn't even know when you were administering the IV what her blood alcohol content was. And what's more, even by her own words, right? She was somewhere in between the most deadly stages, the last 3, stupor, then coma, then death. By her own account, she was somewhere between stupor and coma. Why did she not take that girl to the hospital? Because in my opinion, she knew. And the Mexico government knows she knows. So I know a lot of people have been saying, oh my God, the villas are owned by a very, very powerful man. Yeah, I get that. But honestly, that just falls flat because hear me out. That would have been something if the crime was completely covered up. That villa has got an international embarrassment. So much so that they pulled the villa, right, off of Travelocity Expedia. You can still rent that villa. And I'm sure if you get there, they'll be like, hey, do you want to get upgraded to this different villa? There's just not publicly advertising it, but you can still stay there. Don't believe the hype. Call down there if you don't believe me. Here's my whole point. A very powerful businessman is stopping people from what? The embarrassment has happened. The international attention has happened. The American attention happened. See, this is what I mean about people when they get caught up in, people are dynamic. And if you are that powerful and you are a very successful businessman and you have money, you have, if you don't have that good sense, which I'm sure you do, because how did you build that empire? I'm sure the people working around you have the sense to be like, well, hold on. We need to take a different plot, a different tangent, because that might have helped when we were doing the cover up. But now that everybody knows what's going on, we would actually do better to get this prosecuted as soon as possible. That doctor, throw her under the bus. Who is it? We'll get another one. She's tainted. She's bad for business. She can't be around us anymore. Throw that doctor either to the thing or transfer to another place. We don't care about that doctor. I'm trying to save my multi-million business. Again, I see what people are saying about the businessman, but it just sounds so dynasty, because any businessman worth their money, they are vicious, they move side. And listen, when it comes to money, that's all they care about. Why would you still be trying to have a cover up and save the doctor when she would be the easiest person to throw under the bus? You're the hero because you sussed out this, and then everybody just moves on with their lives. But that's just my opinion. Let's get into the way this doctor lied some more and the way the Mexico government is protecting her. And it looks like she might walk free. How is alcohol intoxication diagnosed? In addition to checking for visible signs and symptoms of alcohol poisoning, your doctor will likely order blood and urine tests to check blood alcohol levels and identify other signs of alcohol toxicity, such as low blood sugar. Do you know why they do that? Because you might think like, oh, they'll be fine if they just sleep it off. But if you have too much blood alcohol content level, you might never wake up. That's why as soon as you go to the hospital, they hit you with the blood. Let's see what's going on. All right, but let's keep going. What are 2 steps to take if alcohol poisoning is suspected? Now, mind you, this nurse turned out flat-footed and dumbfounded with a bottle of goddamn Pedialyte in the IV thing, right? It's nothing but a mixture of sugar, salt, and of course, vitamins, right? Most IVs are. Potassium too, and trace minerals, all right? What are the 2 steps to take if alcohol poisoning is suspected? Here's what you do. Call 911 or your local emergency number immediately. Never assume the person will sleep off alcohol poisoning. Be prepared to provide information. Don't leave an unconscious person alone. Help the person who is vomiting, okay? Look for the signs and symptoms. Confusion, severely slurred speech. This is a sliding scale. She was unresponsive. So that means she was somewhere between stupor and coma, and that the next step is death. So she was super serious. And this girl came with a damn IV bag, a Pedialyte, and the Mexico government trying to tell her it's the friend's fault. No, it's all your fault. Severely slurred speech. She was past that point. Loss of coordination. She was unresponsive. Vomiting. Nobody said they saw her vomit. Irregular or slow breathing. Now, she did say that, but then remember how the doctor also said that when she got her, all her vitals were stable? How do you have alcohol poisoning and all your vitals be stable? Moreover, pale or blue tinted skin caused by low body temperature. Again, if it's not pale or blue tinted, it is ashy. I know everybody says, oh my God, well, in Mexico, let me tell you something. There are plenty of dark skinned people in Mexico that happen to be Mexican. I am 100% sure that they have seen the way somebody with pale or blue tinted skin presents in a darker complexion. You guys, and anyone that's been in Mexico, that seemed like the dumbest lie to me. Y'all act like it looks like Spain, where it's a bunch of pale people, conquistadors, walking around. Most of the people in Mexico are the same complexion or darker as 90% of the Black people in America. So my point in saying this is, the doctor would have, if she got training, would have had some type of experience dealing with people. Being conscious but unresponsive, they call that a stupor. Might I mention that the last two stages before death is stupor, coma, death. Being unresponsive is a stupor. She was one stage away from death, and this woman didn't call an ambulance and literally gave her a bag of Pedialyte. I know it's not Pedialyte, but shut up. Y'all know what I'm saying, right? Passing out and being unconscious. What's the first step in treatment of poisoning? Wipe any vomit away from the mouth and keep their head pointing down to allow any vomit to escape without them breathing it in and swallowing it. Do not give them anything to eat or drink. If the person is not breathing and their heart has stopped, begin CPR. So her heart stopped. Her heart stopped. You said at 4 o'clock, but you declared her legally dead around 6. You did 15 rounds of CPR. Any person will tell you with medical, thank you so much, medical YouTube and Twitter, for educating me. You can't do, I think, more than 3 or 4 rounds of CPR without severely damaging someone's rib cage. They did 14 rounds. First of all, they're lying. And second of all, if that was the truth, they would have ripped her body apart and it would have been in the autopsy. Nothing about her rib cage or any of that stuff being damaged was reported in the autopsy. There's more. Get this. Why do they say take you to the ER? ER doctors typically administer treatments like oxygen for slowed or irregular breathing, IV fluids for depression, thiamine and glucose. IV fluids for dehydration, thiamine and glucose for low blood sugar and preventing brain damage. Was there thiamine? There was no result. There was no thing. So that means that you were working on somebody with alcohol poisoning, and this baby could have woke up, honestly, completely brain damaged because the brain was starved for oxygen and there were key nutrients that were missing, such as thiamine and glucose. It's not more, right? There's more. So what is there's an antidote for alcohol poisoning. Guidelines suggest that fomepizole should be the main antidote for methanol and ethanol glycol poisoning, 3738, while ethanol can be used when fomepizole is unavailable. So there's an actual solution they pump you with when you get to the doctor. But she left her on the couch and did 15 rounds, unbelievably, of CPR with no damage to her rib cage. And never once, and only after she finally had the last seizure that the autopsy said happened at 3, did you say call the 911. It's almost as if you knew that baby was done for and you waited until you could figure out a story and rack your medical mind of how you won't be responsible. And then you jumped into action. Y'all, listen, the Mexican government is playing in our face. There is a real chance, the fact that they are now saying that the doctor, the police officers, and the EMTs are off the hook. That means that they're also going to say the Cabo6 are off the hook, right? Because all they got to say is, we didn't know. And Dejan, y'all, listen, let me know what you think in the comments. I'll talk to y'all later.